Great to have your company on Sky News across Australia. Now, Senator Matt Canavan has slammed the Queensland government's move to extend the border bubble to towns in northern New South Wales, claiming the public health crisis should not be managed by polling results. The Queensland Senator has also weighed in on the Coalition's new roadmap to reduce emissions, saying the government should be looking to prioritise coal and technologies that support the country's economic growth.
We should be focusing a little more on technologies that will work, not those that just maybe work. And hydrogen and green steel and these things, they are at least decades away from being commercially ready. When I don't think we have decades to wait to get our manufacturing sector going again, to restore our energy competitiveness as a nation. So that's why I remain a huge supporter of technologies like high efficiency, low emission coal-fired power. We should be building more of those around the country. I'd like to see more of that. I support the fracking being done in the Northern Territory. We've got enormous shale gas resources, can bring cheap energy to that part of the country. So those technologies are proven. They're out there in other countries, and other countries are using them. And we're getting our pants pulled down because we won't adopt these technologies and are therefore putting high costs on businesses because of that.
Now, you're in Townsville today. You caught up with the Adani bosses. How did that go?
Yeah, great, mate. The project's just going gangbusters. It's so good to see that we can build something in this country. It went through, a fair turmoil for a long period of time. But look, let me just put this stat in front of your viewers. On the current time frame, pending weather, pending wet season this year, on the current time frame, Adani will complete their mine from start of construction through to digging up coal in less time than it took the Federal Department of Environment to review their management plan for the black-throated finch. That does, I think, starkly underline the need to get rid of the green tape and ridiculous regulations in this country that take it longer to assess things rather than do things. It should be the other way around. It should be assessing things quicker than how long it takes to actually do the thing you're assessing, because that is ridiculous and holding up jobs. But the good news is that they are away. There's more than 1,500 people employed now at the mine. They've got, the other day they had 24 movements of planes out of this place, out of Townsville, out to the mine. That's keeping the airport going. That's keeping travel businesses going. And it's employing so many young people here in North Queensland.
Well, speaking of the black-throated finch, now, of course, in May last year, Bob Brown, the convoy, rolled into Clermont and it caused much controversy, and it really crystallised to many voters in that particular region, particularly in seats like Flynn and Capricornia and Dawson and Herbert, that the Labor Party were anti-coal. Now, you're doing a sort of a mock of that particular Bob Brown in memoriam, if you like, rally. It's coming up soon. You invited Bob Brown. What did he say?
Yeah, look, I suppose I didn't have high expectations, Peter. We are holding a Bob Brown tribute rally to say thanks to the great man and what he did last year and helping get Adani going. As I said, Adani was on the ropes, taking years to get anywhere. It still hadn't got its approvals, and Bob came up, and within weeks the mine was approved and started. So we wanted him to work his magic again. I offered to pay his quarantine costs. Obviously a bit harder to get up here from Tasmania in the current environment. Unfortunately, it hasn't been enough to get him over the line. He's rejected it and not coming up. But we are going to go ahead with the tribute rally anyway, and Bob, I'm sure, will be there in spirit. Because now we've got a big fight to get the Acland mine going. We've got another mine where a Labor government here in Queensland, in partnership with the Greens, refusing to approve it. There are 500 jobs on the line, and we really need to highlight to Queenslanders how important it is right now to get projects like that going so people don't lose their jobs.
Well, what do you think of the government's decision on Acland? As you know, it is in the courts, but it's certainly up to the discretion of the Palaszczuk government. They could approve it tonight if they wanted to. Why do you think they're so resistant to approving Acland Stage 3?
There's no secret here, Peter. The reason the Labor Party are gutless and won't stand up for jobs, those jobs out there at Acland, is because they need to do a preference deal with the Greens in the next few weeks to win an election. That's what it's all about. We saw that last state election when Anastasia Palaszczuk pulled the pin on Adani because her boyfriend worked for a company that worked for Adani. Why did she do that? It had nothing to do with the boyfriend. It was because they needed to do a preference deal with the Greens over the weekend before she'd made that announcement. And now you've got a situation where the Labor Party will not be re-elected unless they get preference flows from the Greens And so that's why they can't approve the Acland mine right now. So if you want a government in this state that's tied to the radical extreme Greens party that wants to shut down the coal mining industry, which wants to layer farmers with red tape and strip away their property rights, then the Labor Party's your go. It's your party, because they'll always end up doing what the Greens want, and the Greens will be pulling the strings. But if you want a party that's going to get things going again, approve projects, get jobs going, ignore radical extreme groups like the Greens, then vote for the LNP, because we'll approve Acland straight away. Deb Frecklington has said that. We'll get these jobs going. That's what this state needs.
Speaking of the Palaszczuk government, today they announced that 5 shires in northern New South Wales would be open to the Queensland public on October 1. The cynics are suggesting that this is all about politics. Do you buy that?
Oh, it's absolutely the case. We saw the other week, we saw last week, Peter, the Queensland government is spending over $500,000 of our money, of taxpayers' money, to poll what people think about borders, not what is the problem with the health crisis or the coronavirus, but to poll what people think about the borders. Obviously, overnight, the polls have come back, the results have come in, and they've said that, yep, good tick, people support now regional New South Wales being open. And so, yep, surprise, surprise, today they've done that. So there's all this palaver that Dr. Janet Young is making a decision in this state. That's not true. That's not true at all. What is happening is that the Labor Party are being led by focus groups in how they manage the coronavirus pandemic, and that's why we're seeing this change now. I mean, what's changed in the last week? There was no coronavirus cases last week in regional New South Wales. It's no different this week, but this week the border's open, so it's not the health situation that's changed. Clearly, it must have been the polls.
Now, just finally, there's been an eminent group of QCs that have come out today and written to Daniel Andrews in Victoria, urging him to drop the restrictions that are in place there now. They're still in stage 4 lockdown, as you know. I mean, the Andrews government, despite all the failings attached to the hotel quarantine inquiry, attached to the way in which it's handled this particular crisis, it's still riding high in the polls. And we saw today in The Australian, 62% of Victorians believe that Andrews has handled this crisis well.
We should not be managing a public health crisis based on polling. That's the wrong way to do things. We should be managing the public health crisis in the best interests of the public, based on the best advice from health experts, but also weighing up the economic and social impacts of restrictions and lockdowns. That's what mature, responsible governments would do.